I got hands-on time with Battlefield 2042 Season 5 update, and today I want to tell you what I think about it and the possibility of content beyond this season. Let's get right into the new map and weapons. The new map, Reclaimed, is a competent addition to the 2042 lineup, not as exciting as something like Exposure, but it's sort of a return to form and somewhat reminiscent of classic maps like Zavad 311. The central area of the map has two adjacent warehouse buildings with a zip line between them, and while there isn't a giant smokestack that collapses, it does feel like the central point on Zavad in spirit. There's a lot of cover, elevated vantage points, and cool firing lanes inside the buildings. Plus, the roof on one of them has the new, or should I say returning, stationary anti-air emplacement. These are pretty cool, and they don't seem overpowered when engaging air targets, but they definitely force air vehicles to deal with them before they can move on to other targets. The projectiles they fire feel slow enough in velocity so that it can take some skill to actually hit a moving aircraft, which I think is good for balance, and it allows a skilled pilot to get away or even take them out when necessary. But in several cases they were enough to take down an unaware helicopter pilot or team up with another soldier to apply damage to an aircraft. In my opinion, these are great additions, and it feels like sort of a return to form to the way things once were, with hotspots and danger zones on maps for pilots, and needing to know where you can fly safely and having to retreat at times when you weren't anticipating certain weapons being manned. I like these emplacements, and I hope to see more of them popping up in the other maps. They can also be used to fire on infantry, and they're fairly competent, though I think their placement generally is designed to try and angle them at the air. Now, the rest of the map is, well, competent. It's not what I would call exciting, but there's good cover, lots of intended lanes, both for vehicles and infantry, and even some bunker areas for infantry-only type fighting. Though vehicles can certainly splash their way into the bunkers. Actually, using a tank on this map was super effective. If using your cover properly, it can be quite tricky to take down a good vehicle user here. And speaking of vehicles, there's a lot of changes coming with this patch, and you're going to want to swap your favorite vehicle loadouts around. Tanks and any other vehicle with secondary guns now have thermal vision weapon options. These are tied to miniguns and heavy machine guns at the moment. They make the gunner seat a bit more effective at the moment, and I really like the visual effect that DICE chose for them. The LATV transport vehicle no longer has powerful explosive weapons for taking out infantry, but it does get an insane new flat cannon for taking down air vehicles. I managed to kill a stealth helicopter with one incredibly fast, and I was also blasted out of the air while flying a Little Bird. I think these could actually end up being a bit overpowered, though I didn't test them extensively, and the map was relatively small, so maybe that's what I'm feeling. The anti-air tank also has a new AA weapon, though I didn't really get it tested against AA vehicles much, and there's quite a few other weapon switch-ups that you want to take a look at before spawning in your favorite vehicles. Now, when it comes to infantry weapons, the main new quote-unquote assault rifle is the GEW-46, also known as the G36C from pretty much any previous Battlefield game. Interestingly, this assault rifle starts off with a 20-round mag and can only be upgraded to 30 rounds total. It does have some extensive customization options, but during my limited testing, I never found an option that really wowed me. It's possible that there's some sort of sleeper stealth build or something, but generally speaking, it's going to be tough for this gun to compete with only 30-round mags. Now, the XCE Bar bolt-action sniper rifle does look cool. It comes with a bespoke 6x scope, which might actually be one of the better scopes on the gun, since the 6X is often a favorite for other sniper rifles. I think it's designed mainly as a more aggressive sniper rifle. I wasn't able to determine its muzzle velocity while playing, but it didn't seem spec'd for extreme range for the most part. I'll need to play with it a bit more. The Desert Eagle, or BFP-50 as the game wants to call it, is a nice sidearm to have in the game. It feels good with a solid 2-shot takedown in close quarters and manageable recoil and accuracy. You can also swap it to a CQB magazine to get one extra shot at the cost of some damage, but I didn't test it out. Now, out of the 3 new weapons, the XCE Bar feels like the only unique asset built for 2042. 2042, while the Deagle and G36C feel like they could have just been copied over from any other Battlefield title. They don't really have any sort of futuristic furniture that make them feel more 2042 appropriate, and thus feel more like portal weapons pretending to be base game guns. That said, their performance does feel much better than portal weapons in general. Now, speaking of portal weapons, you can now slap base 2042 attachments onto a variety of them. I, of course, tested out the M16A3 first, and then I played a bit with the 416 and the ACWR. They all feel much more competitive, especially now that they can equip 40-round magazines. I will say it is a little disappointing that there's no visual difference between a 30-round mag and a 40-round mag, but I guess at this point, players will take what they can get. There are differences in what you can equip between the guns though. Some of the better laser sights were only available on some of the rifles and not others, so there's definitely some thought behind how the devs want you to be able to set up each gun. It's going to take a bunch of tweaking to find the best setups, but it's certainly nice being able to slap 2042 optics and bigger mags on them. Now, I won't go as far and say that all the 2042 weapons feel just good now. It's certainly an improvement from before, but there's still some portal weapon jank with them. Now, there's also a bunch of new grenades with this patch. You get mini grenades, bouncy grenades, and anti-vehicle grenades. I didn't make a big effort to try and test the anti-infantry ones. I assume for the most part they're fine with maybe reduced DPS here or there. I was mostly interested in the anti-armor grenade. I only managed to get one successful hit on an anti-air tank, but it seems to do substantial damage. These can only be equipped with the engineer class, but I think engineers could start to see some better builds capable of soloing armor in the right situations. I'll definitely be running with these on armor heavy maps. Now, Nick930 and I were able to test out the squad management system briefly. I made a squad and he joined it. There isn't a kick option, but you can reserve slots for friends, so you should be able to get your full squad going without too much trouble. This is certainly a big quality of life update for the game. And squad orders should also be here, though I didn't really test them extensively. Now, the season's battle pass offers essentially two factions of different cosmetic styles. One is your typical blue and gray tactical stuff that more or less lines up with the 2042 general aesthetic, but the other is a more primal and shall we say expressive style featuring lots of natural textures, animal symbolism, and bolder colors. Across both styles, you'll find a mixture of pristine skins and stuff that has a more guerrilla warfare look to it, with custom wraps and graffiti. It reminds me a bit of Battlefield 3's Aftermath DLC, but it might be a little immersion breaking for some people. I think the new Avances LMG skin could be where some people draw the line. As for future content outside of the remaining portal weapon updates and Hourglass overhaul, DICE teased a few things, including additional content beyond Season 5. The mention of this in the recent development update video has of course generated tons of speculation. DICE said, long term, we're continuing to work on the game beyond Season 5. We're committed to continuing the Battlefield 2042 journey and are working through the best ways to bring new content and experiences for you all. Expect to hear more from us on what's planned in the coming months. Now, a lot of players have interpreted this as a hint that the game could be getting future seasons of content. Others believe it's simply a token gesture that the game will get a Battlefield 5 style end-of-life update with whatever content DICE has left in the works pushed out the door before support is officially ended. Now, frankly, if I were DICE and I knew Season 6, 7, and 8 were on the horizon, I'd be shouting that information from the rooftops. But DICE is not doing that. And the fact that they aren't speaking in more concrete terms and confirming stuff like new maps or seasons signals that the game is probably getting put on, well, life support shortly after Season 5. And frankly, this is marketing 101. If you have good news to keep your people invested in your product, well, deliver it. If your news is not great, you're gonna delay it and deliver it in more vague language until you have absolutely no other choice. Historically, when DICE has plans for the future, they tell us about it, with most games giving us the names for all of their planned DLC on the actual launch day for the game itself. With 2042, it seems like they've been figuring out what they're going to do as they go along, which has led to a lot of hesitancy from the player base. We'll see what DICE has in store more down the road. Season 5 was never promised at the start of the game, and what we got is technically less content than other seasons. No new specialist, less weapons, some of which feel like recycled guns, no new vehicles, and one map plus the last rework. It's hard to make out what future content will be if it maintains or even degrades in scope from this point forward. My personal guess is that we might get a few more content patches after Season 5 that aren't quite seasons worth of stuff, so it won't be packaged like a season. They'll likely revolve around leftover assets that the devs wanted to put into the game and never got an opportunity to do so, plus maybe some more quality of life balance changes. But who knows, I'd be happy to be wrong on this one and get surprised by multiple new seasons worth of content. What do you guys think is going to happen after Season 5? Let me know in the comments, and next up, check out this video about what the next Battlefield game, or rather games, are bringing to the franchise. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.